Previously, we looked at the rise of the mighty Imperium, a golden age for mankind, but the events that preceded it tells a tale of treachery and tragedy that shook the very foundations of the Imperium. The Horus Heresy is a dark chapter written in blood. Despite being only 9 years of our millennia-spanning empire, it marks perhaps the biggest change of the Imperium to date. Thousands of years have passed since those fateful days when the Imperium stood united under the watchful gaze of the Emperor. 18 Primarchs, demigods of war, led their legions with unwavering loyalty. But darkness crept through the cracks, insidious and unseen. The forces of chaos, ancient and malevolent, whispered their seductive promises into the hearts of the Primarchs. Envy, ambition and pride took hold, fracturing the bonds of brotherhood. The galaxy trembled as brother turned against brother, and the Imperium was engulfed in civil war. From the ashes of unity, heroes emerged, their names etched in history. Horus Lupercal, the favored son of the Emperor, led the traitor legions, while loyalists fought to preserve what remained. Worlds burned, legions clashed, and the Emperor's dream of a unified Imperium teetered on the brink of oblivion. Sacrifices were made, betrayals unfurled, and legends were born in the crucible of war. It was a time when heroes faltered and villains embraced their destinies. The heresy is a cautionary tale of the perils of unchecked ambition, the corrosive touch of chaos, and the fragility of loyalty. Today, we remember, we learn from the past and guard against the terrors that lurk beyond the stars. May the memory of the Horus Heresy guide us so that the Imperium may endure. I recount the remarkable events of the Great Triumph during the Ullanor Crusade, a pivotal campaign in the history of the Imperium of Man. The Ullanor Crusade was a massive military campaign conducted by the Emperor of Mankind and his vast forces during the Great Crusade era. Its ultimate objective was to bring the sector-spanning Orc Empire of Ullanor under imperial compliance and eliminate the threat it posed to humanity. I have delved into ancient records, texts and personal accounts to piece together the tale of this momentous campaign. The Ullanor Crusade was a culmination of the Emperor's strategic brilliance and the might of the Space Marine legions, united under his command. The campaign began with the Imperium launching a series of relentless offensives, systematically conquering countless worlds and bringing them into compliance. Each triumph paved the way for the next, as the Emperor's forces forged ahead, leaving a trail of liberated worlds and vanquished enemies in their wake. The Ullanor system itself proved to be a formidable challenge, with Ullanor Prime, the Orc Empire's capital, serving as a bastion of Orc power and a rallying point for their warlike race. The sheer number of Orcs and their brutal war machines presented a daunting obstacle. However, the Emperor's resolve and the indomitable spirit of his warriors knew no bounds. Led by Primarchs and their Space Marine legions, the Imperium launched a massive assault on Ullanor Prime. The skies darkened with the arrival of countless drop pods and thunderhawks, heralding the descent of the Emperor's finest warriors onto the surface of the Orc-infested planet. I can almost feel the ground shake beneath my feet as the forces of the Imperium engaged in fierce battles against the relentless Orc hordes. The clash of power swords, the booming reports of bolter fire, and the mighty roars of towering Space Marine dreadnoughts reverberated throughout the war-torn landscape. The Primarchs strode into the heart of battle, their presence inspiring courage and instilling fear in equal measure. With their legendary weapons and awe-inspiring might, they cleaved through the ranks of the Orcs, leaving devastation in their wake. The campaign culminated in a climactic confrontation between Horus and the Orc warlord known as Urlak. Legends say that the Orc overlord was a towering behemoth, a monstrous embodiment of Orc savagery and cunning. Yet even in the face of such a formidable foe, Horus remained undeterred, for he was the favored son. In the final battle, Horus and his loyal forces overcame the Overlord and his vast army, shattering the Orc Empire's backbone and decimating their leadership. Ullanor Prime was purged of the Xenos taint, and the Imperium celebrated its greatest triumph. The Great Triumph marked a turning point in the Great Crusade, a symbol of the Emperor's inexorable march towards unifying humanity and establishing his Imperium across the galaxy. It showcased the unparalleled power of the Space Marine legions, the valor of their Primarchs, and the strategic brilliance of the emperor himself. During this period, the emperor appointed his favored son, Horus Lupercal, Primarch of the Lunar Wolves Legion, as the War Master of the Imperium. The War Master held the highest military authority, entrusted with the responsibility of leading the vast forces of the Imperium in the Great Crusade. Horus, a figure of unparalleled charisma and tactical brilliance, was an embodiment of the Emperor's vision. His warriors, the Lunar Wolves, were renowned for their discipline and efficiency in battle. It was under Horus's leadership that the Great Crusade flourished and the Imperium expanded its dominion across the stars. The ascension of Horus to the position of War Master was a moment of great hope and celebration. It signified the Emperor's faith in his Primarch and the confidence that Horus possessed the necessary qualities to guide the Imperium to even greater heights. With the mantle of War Master upon his shoulders, Horus became the Emperor's right hand, entrusted with the strategic direction of the Great Crusade. In the wake of Olenor, the Emperor left his most trusted Primarch, Horus, in charge of the Great Crusade. Their leadership, combined with the might of the Space Marine legions, would carry the torch of conquest forward in the Emperor's absence. The return of the Emperor to Terra had implications for the Imperium. It signaled a shift in focus, a turning inward towards the heart of humanity's domain. The Emperor, with his boundless psychic power and unfathomable knowledge, had set his sights on a new endeavor, the creation of a beacon of light and stability amidst the darkness of the galaxy. Upon his return to Terra, the Emperor embarked on a monumental undertaking, the completion of the Imperial Palace and the realization of the Golden Throne and the Webway. This sacred edifice would become his seat of power and the center of his dominion, a symbol of the Imperium's might and the bulwark against the encroaching threats of the Warp. The withdrawal of the Emperor from the Crusade had an impact on the Primarchs and the Space Marine legions. They were left to carry on the Crusade without his physical presence, relying on their own leadership and the teachings instilled in them by the Emperor. Some would falter in his absence, while others would rise to the occasion, shaping the destiny of the Imperium in their own unique ways. Perhaps one could surmise that if the Emperor had stayed, would his sons have strayed to chaos? The Council of Nikaea stands as a testament to the growing concerns and fears surrounding the use of psychic powers within the Imperium at the time of the heresy. As the Great Crusade spread the Emperor's light across the galaxy, the emergence of psychers and their untamed abilities presented both great potential and great peril. In the wake of the burgeoning psychic phenomena, the Emperor himself convened the Council on the World of Nikaea. From imperial records, we can read the Emperor's edict ourselves, for we are truly blessed. From his words to your ears thousands of years later. Hear now the words of my ruling. I am not blind to the needs of the Imperium, but nor am I blind to the realities of the hearts of men. I hear men speak of knowledge and power, as though they are abstract concepts to be employed as simply as a sword or gun. They are not. Power is a living force, and the danger with power is obsession. A man who attains a measure of power will find it comes to dominate his life, until all he can think of is the acquisition of more. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but few can stand the ultimate test of character, that of wielding power without succumbing to its darker temptations. Peering into the darkness to gain knowledge of the Warp is fraught with peril, for it is an inconstant place of shifting reality, capricious lies and untruths. The seeker after truth must have a care he is not deceived, for false knowledge is far more dangerous than ignorance. All men wish to possess knowledge, but few are willing to pay the price. Always men will seek to take the shortcut, the quick route to power, and it is a man's own mind, not his enemy or foe, that will lure him to evil ways. True knowledge is gained only after the acquisition of wisdom. Without wisdom, a powerful person does not become more powerful, he becomes reckless. His power will turn on him and eventually destroy all he has built. I have walked paths no man can know and faced the unnameable creatures of the Warp. I understand all too well the secrets and dangers that lurk in its hidden darkness. Such things are not for lesser minds to know, no matter how powerful or knowledgeable they believe themselves to be. The secrets I have shared serve as warnings, not enticements to explore further. Only death and damnation await those who pry too deeply into secrets not meant for mortals. I see now, I have allowed my sons to delve too profoundly into matters I should never have permitted them to know even existed. Let it be known that no one shall suffer censure, for this conclave is to serve unity, not discord. But no more shall the threat of sorcery be allowed to taint the warriors of the Astartes. Henceforth, it is my will that no legion will maintain a librarius department. All its warriors and instructors must be returned to the battle companies and never again employ any psychic powers. Woe betide he who ignores my warning or breaks faith with me. He shall be my enemy, and I will visit such destruction upon him and all his followers that until the end of all things he shall rue the day he turned from my light. The purpose of this gathering was to deliberate upon the place of psychers and their abilities within the Imperium, and to determine the path forward in dealing with their powers. The Council assembled a diverse array of delegates, including primarchs, senior Imperial officials, and renowned psychic scholars. Among them were the staunch supporters of psychic mastery, who believed in harnessing the warp for the Imperium's benefit, and those who harbored deep concerns over the inherent dangers and corruption associated with psychic manifestations. Chief among the detractors was the Primarch Magnus the Red, master of the Thousand Sons Legion, and a prodigious psyker himself. Magnus championed the power of the warp, advocating for the unrestricted use of psychic abilities and the exploration of the arcane arts. He argued that psychic potential was a gift to be harnessed and controlled, rather than feared and suppressed. On the opposing side stood Primarch Leman Russ of the Space Wolves Legion, a staunch advocate for the banning of psychic practices. The Space Wolves, shaped by their own unique traditions and beliefs, viewed psychic powers as a dangerous gateway to chaos, and vehemently opposed any unregulated use of such abilities. As the delegates debated, tensions ran high and the discussions grew increasingly heated. It became evident that the division between those who favored psychic mastery and those who advocated for its suppression was irreconcilable. The differing philosophies clashed, and the fate of psychic powers within the Imperium hung in the balance. Ultimately, the Emperor rendered his judgment, issuing the Edict of Nikaea. This decree pronounced a ban on the use of sorcery and forbidden all unregulated psychic practices within the Imperium. The Emperor, with his unparalleled knowledge of the dangers posed by the warp, deemed it necessary to restrict the psychic potential of humanity to prevent its corruption. The Edict of Nikaea had far-reaching consequences. It led to the formation of the Ordo Hereticus, an organization dedicated to rooting out and combating rogue psychers and those who dabbled in forbidden psychic arts. It also marked a turning point in the relationship between the Primarchs, as tensions between Magnus and the Emperor escalated, ultimately leading to the tragic events that unfolded during the Horus Heresy. From the vantage point of a distant future, the Council of Nikaea serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between the pursuit of knowledge and the dangers that lurk within the warp. It highlights the ongoing struggle to control and harness psychic powers, and the eternal vigilance required to safeguard the Imperium against the insidious influences of chaos. Next, we have Prospero, the once great homeworld of the Thousand Sons Legion. Thousands of years have passed since that fateful event, and the memories of that day continue to haunt the annals of Imperial history. Prospero, a world steeped in psychic energies and home to the psycho-wielding Thousand Sons Legion, was a planet of great importance and mystique. The Thousand Sons, under the leadership of their Primarch Magnus the Red, delved deep into the study of sorcery and the mysteries of the warp. They sought to harness the powers of the Imperium, not for nefarious purposes, but rather in their pursuit of enlightenment and understanding. However, the Imperium of that time viewed the practice of sorcery and unregulated psychic abilities with grave suspicion. The Emperor, in his wisdom, forbade the use of sorcery and imposed severe restrictions on the psychic powers of the Astartes. This decision was made in response to fears of the dangers inherent in the warp, as well as the potential for corruption and the influence of chaos. The Primarch Magnus, driven by his desire to safeguard his legion and prove the worthiness of their psychic pursuits, committed a grave transgression. In an act of desperation, and against the Emperor's explicit warnings, he utilized his psychic power to send a warning to Terra about the impending treachery of Horus, War Master of the Imperium, from across the galaxy. The psychic message, delivered by Magnus himself, shattered the psychic wards of the Imperial Palace and caused great turmoil in Terra. This act, unintentional as it may have been, was seen as a direct violation of the Emperor's orders and the Edict of Nikaea. The Emperor, furious at this breach of trust and the potential dangers unleashed, decreed that the Thousand Sons Legion must be brought to account for their actions. In response, a massive Imperial fleet, led by the Space Wolves Legion under the command of Lemon Russ, descended upon Prospero. Their orders were clear: bring the Thousand Sons to justice and ensure their compliance with the Emperor's will. What ensued was a brutal and devastating conflict known as the Burning of Prospero. The once proud city of Tizca, the capital of Prospero, became a battlefield of unimaginable destruction. Brother fought against brother as the Space Wolves unleashed their fury upon the Thousand Sons, intent on eradicating what they saw as a taint upon the Imperium. Psychic energies clashed, mighty sorceries were unleashed, and the planet itself trembled under the weight of the cataclysmic conflict. Ultimately, Prospero was left in ruins, its once great libraries and centers of knowledge reduced to ashes. Primarch Magnus, torn between loyalty to his legion and remorse for his actions, fought alongside his warriors with unmatched psychic might. He sought to protect his legion and the accumulated knowledge of Prospero's libraries, even as the very fabric of the planet tore apart under the strain of their devastating powers. But in the end, the combined might of the Space Wolves, driven by their unyielding determination to eradicate what they saw as heresy, proved overwhelming. The walls of the Thousand Sons' defense crumbled, and Prospero fell into ruin. The grand libraries that once housed countless tomes of knowledge were reduced to ashes, forever lost to the Imperium. The confrontation between the Wolf King and the Crimson King was not merely a physical clash, but a battle of ideologies and beliefs. Russ embodied the spirit of martial prowess and loyalty, standing as a champion of the Imperium's staunch values. On the other hand, Magnus, consumed by his thirst for knowledge and the pursuit of forbidden powers, represented a dangerous path that threatened to plunge the Imperium into ruin. The clash between the two Primarchs was cataclysmic, the psychic and physical energies they unleashed, reshaping the very landscape around them. The skies blazed with psychic fire as their powers collided, each Primarch unleashing their might with unyielding determination. Russ, a master of close-quarters combat and renowned for his strategic acumen, brought his indomitable fury to bear against Magnus. His Fenrisian warriors, embodying the savagery and resilience of the wolf, fought alongside their Primarch, their howls echoing across the battlefield. Magnus, his psychic might unrivaled, wielded sorceries and arcane powers that defied comprehension. His mastery of the warp enabled him to manipulate reality itself, summoning demonic entities and casting devastating spells upon his foes. The crimson hue of his presence dominated the battlefield as he fought to protect his legion and his pursuit of esoteric knowledge. The battle raged on, the clash of Primarchs sending shockwaves throughout the galaxy. But in the end, it was Lemon Russ who emerged victorious. With a final thunderous blow, he struck down Magnus, shattering his physical form and leaving him defeated. The survivors of the Thousand Sons Legion, shattered and broken, were scattered across the galaxy, condemned as heretics and renegades. Magnus, overwhelmed by guilt and grief, was cast adrift into the warp, his fate uncertain. Magnus, now fully aware of the magnitude of his mistake, witnessed the devastation he had wrought upon his legion and the Imperium. Consumed by guilt and despair, he faced a choice that would forever seal his fate. As demonic forces closed in around him, the Changer of Ways, the Chaos God Tzeentch, extended an offer: redemption through damnation. Magnus, torn between remorse and a desperate desire to atone for his actions, made a fateful pact with Tzeentch. In exchange for his undying loyalty and service, the Chaos God elevated Magnus to the rank of Demon Prince, imbuing him with even greater power and transforming his physical form into an embodiment of warp-spawned malevolence. The transformation of Magnus into a Demon Prince was a moment of profound tragedy and loss. The noble Primarch, once an architect of knowledge and enlightenment, had succumbed to the temptations of the warp, and become a living embodiment of the very forces he had sought to master. His crimson form, now infused with dark energy and accursed gifts, radiated an aura of twisted majesty. With his ascension, Magnus became a formidable champion of Tzeentch's inscrutable schemes. His legion, shattered and scattered across the galaxy, became a fractured force, twisted and corrupted by the warp. The Thousand Suns Legion, now tainted by their Primarch's fall, embraced forbidden sorcery and lost themselves to the capricious whims of chaos. Through a combination of hubris and desperation, Magnus attempted to warn his father of Horus's treachery and the impending doom it would bring upon the Imperium. Ignoring the warnings of his loyalists and advisors, Magnus unleashed a powerful psychic message that shattered the wards protecting the Imperial Palace on Terra, and inadvertently created a gateway for demonic entities to infiltrate the material realm. The catastrophic breach within the Webway, known as the Magnus Folly, allowed hordes of demons to pour into the Imperial Palace. The Emperor, burdened with the desperate task of holding back the demonic incursion, dispatched his custodians and Sisters of Silence to repel the onslaught. As the psychic energies of the breach threatened to engulf Terra, the Emperor exerted his immense power to stabilize the Webway portal and prevent the demonic forces from overrunning humanity's cradle. Their task was twofold: to hold the line against the encroaching tide of demons and to prevent the demonic hordes from overwhelming Terra. With their lives on the line, the custodians and the sisters fought valiantly, their unwavering determination and unyielding resolve holding back the relentless onslaught. The war within the Webway was a nightmarish battle, unlike any the Imperium had ever faced. The forces of chaos, in their unfathomable cruelty and malevolence, unleashed corrupted humans, twisted titans, and abominable war machines to shatter the Imperial defenses. Greater demons, such as the Bloodthirsters, added their savage might to the infernal ranks. The sanctity of the Imperial Palace, the fate of the Imperium, and the very life of the Emperor himself hung in the balance. The custodians, reduced in number by a staggering 90%, fought side by side with their Sisters of Silence allies. They established blockades within the Webway, desperately defending crucial positions, while Mechanicum workers labored to repair the damaged sections and seal the rifts that allowed demons to infiltrate. Lightning-fast counterattacks were launched to keep the demonic horde off balance, preventing them from massing their strength. The custodians faced a relentless onslaught of demonic forces within the perilous depths of the Webway. It was a battle that tested their indomitable will, courage, and martial prowess to the limit. Many factors contributed to the heavy toll exacted upon the custodians, leading to the loss of a significant number of these elite warriors. Furthermore, the prolonged nature of the war added to the custodians' hardships. For 5 arduous years they fought tirelessly, defending key positions, launching counterattacks, and withstanding wave after wave of demonic assaults. This continuous engagement left little room for respite, rest, or recovery. The custodians faced an unrelenting and unending war, where exhaustion and attrition gradually took their toll. Despite their unmatched skill and prowess, even the custodians could be overwhelmed when faced with relentless waves of demonic entities. While they fought valiantly and held their ground, the sheer weight of numbers was a constant threat to their survival. The dangerous and treacherous nature of the Webway itself posed additional challenges. The Webway is a complex and unpredictable labyrinth, filled with hidden perils and deadly traps. Navigating its twisted paths and battling within its shifting and ethereal corridors presented an additional layer of difficulty for the custodians. The environment itself could turn against them, further endangering their lives. Lastly, the sacrifices made by the custodians were not without purpose. They were tasked with the vital mission of holding back the demonic forces and preventing them from overrunning Terra and the Imperial Palace. Their steadfast defense ensured that the Golden Throne, the Emperor's ultimate bastion of power, remained protected and prevented a catastrophic breach that could have unleashed unimaginable horrors upon the Imperium. Though the loss of so many custodians in the War of the Webway was a grievous blow to the Imperium, their sacrifice was not in vain. Their unwavering dedication and unyielding resolve bought precious time, allowing the Emperor to enact crucial measures to safeguard Terra and the Imperium. Their heroic actions serve as a testament to the custodians' unflinching loyalty and willingness to lay down their lives in the defense of the Emperor and humanity. Though the Imperial forces made slow but steady progress, the demonic assaults were relentless. At times, the demons managed to break through the defenses, wreaking havoc and sowing chaos among the Imperial workers. In those dire moments, the custodians and sisters redoubled their efforts, throwing themselves into the fray to drive back the demons and protect the warp gate of the Golden Throne. For years, the war raged on. Imperial forces were centered around the abandoned elder city of Kalistar, a bastion within the treacherous realm. The custodians and sisters fought with unmatched valor, but the toll was severe. 2 of the 3 commanding custodians' tribunes fell in battle, leaving Ra Endymion as the primary Imperial officer. The impossible city itself came under threat as a formidable new foe, the dreaded Draconian, appeared among the demonic hordes. Desperate measures were taken to bolster the Imperial forces. The Emperor charged the Sisters of Silence with the unspoken sanction, and the Black Ships scoured the galaxy to gather psychers to power the Golden Throne. Reinforcements were scarce, with only the doomed prisoners of House Viridian, the crippled Blood Angel Dominion Zephan, and loyal Mechanicum Servitors and Skitarii joining the fray. Led by the Mechanicum Dominus, known as the Archimandrite, this eclectic force fought alongside the Custodians and Sisters in the final defense of the human-made Webway and the city of Kalistar. As the broader interstellar conflict unfolded between the Imperium and the forces of Chaos, loyal to Warmaster Horus, Mars became a battleground of its own, reflecting the scale and ferocity of the wider conflict. The Schism of Mars served as a microcosm of the galaxy-wide struggle, highlighting the deep divisions within the Mechanicum, the ancient organization responsible for the Imperium's technological might. The Loyalist factions, steadfast in their devotion to the Emperor and the principles of the Great Crusade, fought to preserve the integrity of the Mechanicum and resist the temptations of chaos. On the other side stood the traitors of the Dark Mechanicum, seduced by the promises of forbidden knowledge and power offered by the ruinous powers. In the fires of this internal conflict, ancient alliances shattered, and long-standing bonds of brotherhood were torn asunder. The battles that raged across Mars were waged not only with conventional weaponry, but also with arcane technologies and forbidden arts. The dark taint of chaos corrupted even the most revered of the Mechanicum's creations, turning them into monstrous engines of destruction. To ensure his chances of victory, Horus recognized the importance of securing the support of the Mechanicum, the technologically advanced and influential organization that governed Mars and held the secrets of ancient STC, Standard Template Construct technology. Horus promised the tech priests the rediscovered knowledge of the STC, which had been acquired by his Sons of Horus Legion during the subjugation of the Oretian technocracy. The allure of this lost technology proved irresistible to many tech priests who saw it as an opportunity to advance their own power and unlock untold technological marvels. Horus capitalized on their ambitions, convincing them that the Emperor's vision of unity and progress had stagnated, and that he alone could lead humanity to its true potential. With the support of the Mechanicum, Horus gained access to advanced weaponry, formidable war machines, and technological knowledge that bolstered his forces and posed a significant threat to the Loyalist factions. The betrayal of the Mechanicum marked a critical turning point in the heresy, further complicating the already dire situation for the Imperium. The Fabricator General Kelber Hal, along with a faction of the Mechanicum, believed that the Emperor was a false idol and resented his influence over Mars. Kelber Hal saw an opportunity to seize greater autonomy for the Mechanicum and gain access to forbidden technologies promised by Horus. Horus won over the allegiance of Kelber Hal by offering him the long-sealed vaults of Moravec, which contained forbidden knowledge tainted by the corrupting influence of chaos. The reopening of these vaults unleashed Scrap Code, a chaotic computer virus, infecting the Mechanicum's systems and plunging Mars into chaos. The civil war on Mars began with acts of sabotage, assassination, and aggression as Kelber Hal and his allies sought to eliminate those who remained loyal to the Emperor. The conflict escalated rapidly as various factions clashed across the planet. Notable battles included the destruction of Magos Matthias Kefra's forge, the assault on High Magos Ahotep's god engine fabrication yards, and the siege of Magma City, defended by Coriel Zeth and her loyal forces. The civil war was characterized by widespread destruction, including the use of virus bombs, nuclear weapons, and devastating clashes between Titan legions. The conflict mirrored the larger war between loyalist and traitor forces in the galaxy, as both sides fought for control and the survival of their respective ideologies. Rogaldorn and Sigismund of the Imperial Fists led an expeditionary force to secure the vital forges of Mars. However, the situation quickly deteriorated as traitor forces, led by the Dark Mechanicum, unleashed their full power. Sigismund and his companies landed at Mondus Oculum, where they discovered the loyal fabricator, Locum Zagreus Cain. Together, they managed to secure a significant amount of munitions and weaponry, including thousands of suits of power armor. However, time was running out as a sizable enemy force closed in on their position. Reluctantly, Sigismund realized that they could not engage in a futile fight and risk losing the essential resources they had secured. The Imperial landing ships hastily departed, carrying only a fraction of the Loyalist forces who had fought on Mars. The Manufactoria of Mondus Oculum and Mondus Gamma fell into the hands of the traitors, resulting in the loss of invaluable technology and knowledge. In the aftermath of the battle, the traitors of Mars remained under the control of the Dark Mechanicum, supporting Horus in his campaign against the Imperium. Mars would not be fully reclaimed until the Great Scouring after the Battle of Terra. The Dark Mechanicum continued to draw upon the corrupting influence of chaos, using forbidden knowledge to aid in their destructive endeavors throughout the Horus Heresy. The Schism of Mars serves as a grim reminder of the devastating impact of internal strife within the Mechanicum, and the lengths to which the traitors would go to gain power and support their cause. It stands as a testament to the sacrifices made by the Loyalist forces in their struggle to secure vital resources for the Imperium and ultimately defeat the traitor legions. As we conclude this lecture, I urge you to reflect upon the lessons learned from these events. The Horus Heresy is a cautionary tale of the dangers posed by corruption and disloyalty within our ranks. It is a stark reminder that even the most revered and powerful institutions can be vulnerable to the machinations of chaos. In our next lecture, we will delve further into the trials and tribulations faced by the Imperium during the heresy. We will explore the heroic sacrifices, strategic battles, and pivotal moments that shaped the fate of the galaxy. Until then, continue your studies diligently, for it is through knowledge and understanding that we arm ourselves against the threats that lurk in the darkness. May the Emperor guide and protect us all.